Good day, traders. This is a Tradesight Market Preview for Friday, October 4th, 2013. I just wanted to walk you through some of what we're looking at for Friday's action potentially and get you kind of prepared for it because obviously we're in sort of an unusual situation here with the federal government shutdown. That's going to be the focal point on Friday, and whether or not it's resolved before the weekend, I would guess that's unlikely at this point because once you get past Friday, you've got a couple of days where not a lot of less impact will be seen in terms of jobs at least until Monday. So hopefully they can target solving this by Monday. But let's take a look at the S&P 500 chart. We did get our 13 sell signal back here a couple weeks ago, and as you can see since then it's been a sell-off in the S&P, obviously aided by the current government shutdown that's going on. And we could still accelerate to the downside. Let's talk about what this means. Obviously, shutdown is negative. It puts a lot of people out of work. Heading into the holidays, it's going to have an impact on retail sales this holiday. If it drags on too long, less people with money to spend. Obviously, it's an impact on a lot of areas of the economy as well. And so the longer this goes on, the more of a negative it's going to become. And we're heading up against separately what is a debt limit issue coming up in a couple of weeks as well. So if we take this all the way to there, I think we're really going to have a big problem with this market, which might be good for us from a trading perspective. We can make money long or short. A little bit of action doesn't hurt us, but certainly that's not the way we want to see it come about. Obviously, the first target here is this red static trend line as a downside target. And I'm going to write a separate article that will be posted, sort of outline the differences between the government shutdown and the debt limit. Those are different items. We'll be talking about that over the weekend. But the main thing to factor on here is I think a lot of people might assume that the market's going to get more negative on Friday. And it may, just because the longer this drags on, obviously, the more it begins to have an impact on the economy long term. But one thing to keep in mind is that just like you might think nobody wants to hold stocks over the weekend, or if they're not investors, hold stocks over the weekend with all this going on. The flip side is I don't think you're going to see a lot of people shorting on Friday because they have all weekend to potentially resolve this. That's a lot of risk if you were to short the market on Friday. So the selling pressure might just be people that are own stocks that don't feel comfortable holding over the weekend, but you're not going to get the added pressure of shorting and people shorting the market. The flip side is there's probably already some big shares short the market at this point, and they may want to cover some of that going into the weekend because they have equal risk if the situation gets resolved. So, again, it's hard to say what to expect. Obviously, as a general sense, you would expect a more negative bias, but I don't know that you assume on a Friday things are going to go either way sharply, because I just don't think anybody either direction is going to want to take on new positions. So anything you definitely see is going to be basically closing out existing long and short positions. And again, we're targeting the static trend line, that red line on the downside. The NASDAQ side, here's a look at it. Just starting to roll over today. It was basically at new highs yesterday, but it is starting to roll. And obviously, like I said, the market in general, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that this is very detrimental to the economy, and it will have an impact here if it doesn't get resolved shortly. Here's the stocks, okay? Basically flat for the last several weeks. A little bit of a negative candle today. Here's the biotechs even starting to roll over. And again, remember, as go banks and biotechs, so go the market. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as well. Let's glance at the oil futures. Oil pretty stable. Was coming in, get a little pop today. We do have a new storm down in the Gulf that seems to be picking up some speed, so that might have an impact on oil there. And then here's the look at the gold futures, which did really nothing today. So finding support right on that red static trend line, which is what I'd see potentially happening on the S&P. So in general, we will trade it tomorrow from the tape. There was supposed to be the unemployment data and the non-farm payroll data coming out in the morning, but the government shutdown has prevented that number from being created, and everybody's out of work that's trying to put out that number on a monthly basis. So we have no data in the morning as well. So you got no data. You've got just this. Everything's about this shutdown at this point in time. And as we saw today, if I show you the intraday action here on the futures, let me take this to a 5-minute chart just to sort of make the point that the afternoon action was fairly light. We had a little spike right here down. That was on the shooting report out of the Capitol, when that seemed to be just a contained incident. It came right back up. And then really it's the last 5 minutes of the stock market and the 10 and 15 minutes afterwards that slipped a bit. So the whole afternoon was just dead. Again, probably going to expect that on Friday until the last few minutes as well, unless something gets resolved here. I do want to point out that there's a separate YouTube video going up tonight showing the ES Comer counts, because basically the Comers nailed the higher low of the session the last 3 days, which is really nice. At any rate, we'll be in the lab trading, at least in the morning, and not expecting much after that. We'll see how the volume goes. Volume's actually been a little better, 1.7 billion. We're not moving because of it, but it's there. We've been averaging about 1.7 billion on the NASDAQ this week. So maybe if they get this resolved, we're at that time of year where we can get the volume number back up. I'd love to get the usual out of October, November, early December. Things do settle down for the last 2 weeks of the year for the holidays. But this is usually a great time of year for trading if they could just get this thing wrapped up in Washington. Have a good night.